Hey everybody, Ryan here from Rhino Hockey Channel. Alright, gonna go over the San Jose Sharks season review. Now, I know I had the modern San Jose Sharks symbol. If you ask me, it sucks. I like the original far better. But that's personal opinion. I grew up with my parents having season tickets and going to like every home game. So I'm kind of biased when I like that one better, but still not a fan of the team because I'm a Ducks fan. They're rivals. What can I say? But I am going to be objective today because they're not a good team. So what's there to be mad about? But anyways, I went with the more classic looking teal for the background in this than the more modern looking, more greener one. So I like the classic one better. All right, 2021. How did it go for them? Not great. But that was kind of expected. Will you stop licking plastic bags, you weird cat? Sorry about that. Alright. They went 21, 28, and 7. Honestly, I think they did better than I expected. Just like I said in the Detroit video for Detroit, they did better than expected. And honestly, I didn't expect San Jose to win 20 games. They had a few good stretches, but they were very sporadic, and that was the problem. They were 21, 28, and 7, 49 points, good enough for tied for 25th, but they were 26 based off a row, which for those of you who don't know, that is regulation or overtime wins. All right, so their power play is what killed them once again. They were terrible last year. They were terrible this year. Letting go of Joe Pavelski was a stupid thing, One of the top power play goal scorers. Yeah, look at what he did for Dallas this year. A monster on the power play. If they had Joe Pavelski still, if they had kept him instead of signing Erik Karlsson to that ridiculous contract, they'd probably be a far better team, more competitive, honestly. Because Erik Karlsson has not provided that competitiveness that they needed. That they needed. Alright, so, like I said, 14.1% on the power play. Good enough for 29th. Out of 31 teams. Ouch. Their penalty kill was still very good. Not as good as last year. Last year they were first by a long shot. This year more pedestrian, I'd say, but compared to last year. But still a good year. 14th out of 31 with an 80.4% penalty kill. Now they still had Goodrow on that team. May have been higher. But that guy's got 2 straight cups with Tampa. I don't think he's complaining about that trade. Alright, goals for per game is a 2.61, good enough for 25th out of 31. Their offense is what killed this team. A team with Brent Burns and Erik Karlsson on the defense. They were 25th out of 31 teams. That does not seem logical. They were one of the worst goals against teams this season because their goaltending tandem was terrible all year long, even after they traded one of them. And their defense they're good offensively, but terrible defensively. And a lot of them are aging out, honestly. And they have long, difficult to move contracts. They allowed 3.5 goals against per game, good enough for second worst in the league. Ouch. 146 goals for and 196 goals against. Yikes. That is a 50 goal negative differential. Yikes. Key injuries this season, I wouldn't even call these major injuries, honestly. Matt Nieto, limited 28 games. He was very good in the time. He had, 7 points in the 28 games he played, which for him, he's a fourth liner career, so not bad. But I wouldn't say it's end of the world, but they don't have offensive depth, and that's what killed them because it was just a never-ending circle of minor league forwards they were seeing who could do something. They did nothing. Radim Simek. He was limited to 40 games. He's a bit more of one. I think he's someone who may end up getting taken by Seattle, possibly. But he has been a solid defender for them for the last few years. And the last couple of years with the injuries he's had, you look at their defensive numbers, they've not been as good without him. This year, I think they were not very good with or without him. But limited to 40 games out of 56, so 16 games missed. You had Hurdle, who missed like 6 games with COVID. You had Erik Karlsson missed like 2 or 3 games. Otherwise, contrary to last year, this team was healthy this year. Last year, they had the excuse of pretty much every key player was injured for extended periods last year. This year, they were not. They just could not score, and they could not stop a goal. Upcoming UFAs, Patrick Marleau, your now NHL games played leader, will probably re-sign and extend that because he's already said he does not want to retire. We'll see if San Jose or anybody brings him back. I'd imagine San Jose is probably going to. Curtis Gabriel, he had one game where he took like this really stupid major penalty. I forget what it was. I forget the exact circumstances, but he did not play a single NHL game after that. He sat on the bench, not on the bench, but in the press box the rest of the season. I think he was punished, and I don't think he's going to be back. I think he was popular with the fans before then until he did that. I forget what it was exactly. I don't know why I don't remember. I want to say it was like a charging major, I want to say. Marcus Sorensen, someone who he could re-sign cheap, or he could sign somewhere else, or he may end up in Europe, kind of like the other Karlsson they had, Melker Karlsson from last year. I think I was surprised he didn't get signed by a team. He's a decent fourth line forward, but nobody wanted him. And then Greg Pattern, the guy who was traded two different times this year. Yeah, he was actually on San Jose just to get rid of salary. All right, upcoming RFAs. They don't have anything that's going to be super large, but they have a couple guys who are due for, I'd say, decent raises. Joseph Kornash, yes, that is how it was pronounced on the San Jose feed, because that's all I get up here where I live. I don't get any of the others unless I pay for the packages, which I do. But yeah, that's my local one, so that's how they pronounce it there. I'm sure they'll change it. It's kind of like Evgeny Nabokov, the classic goalie for the Sharks. His name his first year was John Nabokov. Not Evgeny, John Nabokov. I even have a card that says John Nabokov. So, yeah, they can be wrong, even the announcers. It happens. But that's how it was pronounced, that I know. Then you have Alex True. Neither one of those two are going to get ones. I think Christian Yaros, I don't even think they're going to extend a contract to him. I think they'll let him go as a UFA. Joaquin Blickfeld may get something, but he's not going to get a major one because I bet you're not going to see him play against Colorado anytime soon after that headshot on Nathan McKinnon that took him out for about a week or two. Yeah, I don't think he's playing against Colorado anytime soon because they may want to take his head. Rudolph Balcers, that guy, he had a very good season for San Jose. I think he's going to get a decent contract. I don't think a huge one, but a decent contract. Probably a couple million, I'd assume, off of his play this last year. But I don't know if he's worth that long term. We'll see. He may get like a 1 year, $1.5 million prove-it contract, but we'll see. Dylan Gambrell, a little bit of pay raise, not a whole lot. I wouldn't see him being more than $1 million. Noah Gregor, same type of thing. They expected him to be their third line center this year, and he did not work out, so we'll have to see. And Ryan Donato, I think I want to say with the way his last contract works, I think they have to tender him a $3.5 million or more contract, I think. Which I think he'll get that easily. He had a decent year, not as good with Minnesota the year before, but still a decent offensive year. And right now they have no offensive depth, and they really have nobody coming up that screams, we're going to be good offensively. So I don't think that they're going to let him go. Now on to terrible contracts, which I only listed a few. There could be more. That's the sad part. This is a team full of terrible contracts because their GM, Doug Wilson, said, oh, we did decent. We made the conference finals. Or we did well in the playoffs, making the second round, beating Vegas. Let's just throw out that no-trade contract. No trade, no trade, no trade, no trade. That's basically how he did it, and that's why they're screwed at this point. I mean, they got little to no cap space. I mean, they have some, but it's not a lot. But I mean, you got Erik Karlsson, 11.5 million. I know everybody and their mother on YouTube and everywhere else rails against this contract, and unless they win a Stanley Cup with him, that is going to go down as one of the worst contracts ever signed. And if he ends up being majorly injured and not finishing out this contract playing, this will go down as one of the worst contracts ever signed in the NHL. Plain and simple. 11.5 million. The guy was playing with major injuries. He had a major reconstruction on his Achilles tendon about a year and a half, maybe 2 years before he signed that contract. And he did not play up to par that season with San Jose before he signed that contract. That was a ridiculous contract. And he signed it because I bet you nobody else offered him more than 10 million. Nobody. Nobody in their right mind would offer him that contract after that season. But San Jose did. And now they're stuck with it. And he's already said that he doesn't want to be on a rebuilding team. Well, I have bad news for you. I think you're stuck there because nobody's taking that contract. Then you have Marc-Edouard Vlasic, $7 million per through 25-26. When he signed that, he was one of the top defensive defenders. No doubt he is a very good defensive defender at the time. He has not been that player the last 2 seasons. Not at all. Very injury prone last season. This season, I think he missed like 2 games total, which is not bad at all. 2 games, I think you can write that off as maintenance days more so. But $7 million per, and he's, by the time that contract's over, he's going to be 40. So he's already mid-30s. He's not getting better at this point. He's only got down to go at this point, unfortunately. And he is not what he used to be. So this contract, unmovable, honestly. I mean, even if they took half, 3.5. Yeah, 3.5 million. Sorry, my math was off there. 3.5 million if they kept 50%. I mean, they'd have to throw something in like a high draft pick just to get somebody to take that. Any of these contracts. Brent Burns, $8 million per through 2024, 2025. He isn't limited no trade clause, which is nice. So he has to give him a list of 10 that'll take a trade to. But still, who's going to take a defender in their upper 30s who has been consistently going down the last few years in offensive totals? And he's not a very good defender. In the defensive aspect, he's not very good in the defensive part. So is somebody going to take him at $4 million if they offer up something with it? Problem is, they need draft picks. They can't, and they have nothing else to offer for you to take as a sweetener for this situation. I mean, maybe Seattle might take him just because and just take someone terrible for their team in return, but why? Why would they want to do that? And Evander Kane, $7 million per through 2024-25. I know what you're saying. Why are you saying their top scorer, 29 years old, $7 million for a few more years? That's not bad. Yes, but this guy is a locker room cancer. I mean, he has not been helpful to this locker room. Ever since they acquired him, they've gotten consistently worse. I mean, they, of course, named Logan Couture captain, which honestly I thought was a terrible choice. Because you look at his post-game interviews, especially in the playoffs before he was made captain, always disparaging his team, always blaming his teammates, always blaming someone else, even when he makes a mistake. He's not a very good captain, in my opinion. If you disagree, that's fine. I don't really care. It's just, I thought he was a terrible choice for captain. They should have made Pavelski the captain at the time. Plain and simple. And Evander Kane may not even be on this team. With his bankruptcy issues, they've been talking about buying him out. Of course, they also were talking about buying him out and then re-signing him for league minimum, which, honestly, I think the league, if they do that, the league needs to take disciplinary action against this franchise for that. That's ridiculous. If there's even room to do that. I don't know if there is. I mean, I don't read over the CBA. That is a very long contract, not worth reading, unless it affects you directly. Which, I guess, in a way it does with doing this channel and everything, but it doesn't affect me that much that I want to read through all that crud. And then, of course, Martin Jones. $5.75 million, through 2023-24. Yeah, he has not lived up to that contract for the last 3 years. Terrible, terrible goalie for the last 3 years. Awful. He has his moments where he looks absolutely amazing. The next game, he'll have a shutout, just look amazing, stopping like 30, 40 shots. Next game, allow like 6 goals on the same amount of shots. What is happening? He's very inconsistent and not a top tier goalie, honestly. He looked like it that first year with San Jose when they made the finals, lost to Pittsburgh. Looked very good. Contract looked good at that time. Actually looked cheap at the time. Has not lived up to it since. Who wants out? I can't say anyone else wants out. I mean, Erik Karlsson said in the media, which this is one thing the Sharks need to work on, is allowing what their players say to the media. They let him get away with saying, I don't want to be on a rebuilding team. Most teams, I think, at that point, if he had said that in the press, would have benched his butt for a few games after that. I would have. If I was the coach, sit down, watch. You're not playing. You don't say that in the media. I don't care if that's your true feelings. You are under contract to shut up and only say what we want you to say. You want to say it? That's fine. But realize there are repercussions. Plain and simple. That's disparaging the franchise at that point. That's not even, and nonetheless, that is just demoralizing for your teammates. Don't say that sort of stuff in the media. Especially someone who used to be a captain. Why would you say that? That's just awful. Awful timing, especially. Because they were not far from a playoff spot at that time. They were within a couple points. And you're saying that in the media? Come on, man. Learn some lessons. Stop being selfish. Some players just don't learn. Vander Kane, one of them. Sorry, I know I keep bragging on Vander Kane. I am not a Vander Kane fan. I am a fan of him knocking out Matt Cook in that fight when he was a rookie. Outside of that, I don't like the things he does. He does take some stupid penalties, which he was better this year. I will give him credit there. Last year he was terrible. 2 years ago in the playoffs, just terrible. This year, much better. Started out the season terrible with the penalties, but finished better with them. I'm sorry, this video is taking forever. Let me move on. All right, Vander Kane, top goal scorer, or top goal and point scorer. 22 goals, 27 assists for 49 points. Pretty good year, honestly. Really good. If they have to buy him out and let him go because of his bankruptcy issues, that's a big hurt. Martin Jones, 15, 13, and 4. 8.96 save percentage and 3.28 goals against average is your top goaltender for his team. Yes, he had a winning record. He did. But look at those numbers. 8.96 save percentage. 3.28 goals against average. Even out of the teams I've shown so far that are lower than them in the rankings, most of their goaltenders weren't even that bad. Most of them. That's pretty bad. Upcoming draft. They have quite a few picks. They took on some contracts in order to acquire some extra draft picks. And honestly, for the contracts they took on at the time, I was kind of surprised they didn't get that many good draft picks out of it. Not very good at the time, honestly. I really don't think that was getting their money's worth at that point. But they had the number 7 pick this year. They have no second round pick because that's going to Ottawa as part of the Erik Karlsson trade still. Yes, that is still taking place. They start off after the first round at number 71. They go on to 103, 120, 135, 155, 167, and the interesting number 199. I don't know why I like 99 numbers. I do, though. They're fun. What's our future outlook? As of now, it looks like this team is a retool. I don't think they're smart enough. Their GM should go into a rebuild. He should. But they can't move their contracts. So how can you rebuild without moving those contracts? At this point, I think they're hoping just for a retool. And I don't think it's a good choice. It's like the Ducks. They're just trying to rebuild. They're retooling instead of rebuilding. Stupid. And it's going to take longer at this point if you don't. So if they make the right moves, which they don't have the assets to move, in my personal opinion, but if they were to find a way to get some of these guys that they need, offensive depth, defensive help, someone who plays defense, and a good goalie. then they could be as soon as 2 to 3 seasons competitive. I mean, they still have a core that's good enough to possibly fight for a playoff spot next year, but I just don't see it happening. I just don't. So, it's 2 to 3 years, but I think realistically, if they were to go into rebuild, they should go into 5 to 8 years, I'd say, at the earliest. This may be the longest drought without the playoffs that they've had. It is 2 years now without playoffs, which is the longest since the 90s. So that tells you how good this team has been for so long and why they don't have any depth. They don't. They have Ryan Merkley, a defender, who has some serious issues and questions about him. So, a la Tony D'Angelo. Not as bad. I mean, he doesn't have the racist issue, but... or racist comment issues, I should say. Where he's played for about 4 or 5 different junior teams and does not play well with others. So is that really the guy you want on a team that already seems to have locker room issues? I don't think it's going to improve anything. It could make it worse, but it won't improve anything. But this team is not going to be competitive for a few years, I don't think. I really don't. So that's what I have for you. Sorry, Sharks fans, is not a good one. So good luck to you. But that's all I have for you. If you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, hit that notification bell, and I will see you all next video. Bye, everybody.